All right, it's Tuesday night, and you're here with Mark of Sea Science Film Labs and Jason of Faithful, Honest, and True. Uh, got a video to watch. How are you tonight, Jason?
Oh, good, thanks. Yeah, I'm good.
Glad to hear it. Yeah,
Hey, how's yourself?
yeah, yeah. I had a pretty good
Good.
week here at good weekend, really. So
Yeah.
it was pretty good over here at the film. Oh wow, it's Christianity Recap is in the chat too, and Alex G. And yeah, so should be good.
Yeah.
What we got here for you tonight is a video by John Adolphi. He's a little known creationist on YouTube, and he's making big waves. Uh, he seems to have some really great ideas for the young Earth creation crowd, and he goes into giants and fossilization mostly. So uh, I think you'll enjoy it, Jason. I don't know. We'll see. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's have a look. Oh, sorry. Oh, I forgot. Oh, I'm doing that.
Oh,
I get used to being on
it's all right.
Praises. I get used to being on Praises channel and him doing it. So sorry. All right, here we go. Here we go.
All right, brother.
Did we come from one of these? Apes, aliens, or Adam? Okay, Mr. Monkey. We've had enough of you. Okay, so when entering in this discussion as to where we came from, is the biblical account have any validity whatsoever? Or is it just a bunch of fairy tales that have no science, no history, no nothing to back it up? Okay. We're going to talk about that, but let me give you a preview of what we're going to do. We're going to review the Frankenfossil machine. We're going to show you some instant fossils. You may have seen them before, almost instant. We are going to unbox delicate fish bones in acrylic to make a point. I'm going to show that to you tonight. I haven't opened it yet. We're going to show you an interesting fossil. We'll get to that. We're going to bury a fish. It's a rubber fish. And we're going to show you some other interesting fossils. And then we're going to give you our special museum text line so that you can get alerted next time we've got something cool or a giveaway. So that's coming up too. All right. So we asked the question, where did we come from? I'm John Adolphi, Lost World Museum, and here we go. So when it comes to fossilization, okay, when you have the evolutionary account and the creationist account, believe it or not, they are starting to come together and harmonize. Oh, let me do that again. Creationism, evolution. They're starting to harmonize, believe it or not. No longer are they looking, they, meaning the established scientific community that interprets those things that nobody was there to observe, but has a worldview that a premise, there is no God, there is nobody involved. This took millions of years, billions of years, and that through uniformitarianism, that's a big $3 word for everything kind of flowing along naturally, like we see it around us right now. That took place for the last 4.6 or 51 billion years. And through natural selection, positive mutation, environmental pressure, we went from a proto RNA to where we are today. Okay, that's the narrative. Okay, and of course, the creation account is that 6,000 to 10,000 years ago, there was a God that spoke things into existence over a 1 week period, and we were created on day 6, only to see it all wiped out 1,600 years later in a worldwide flood. And if there was a worldwide flood, then we have to explain the fossils in the context of a recent worldwide flood. Because if you go with evolutionary concepts, this right here, which is the fossil column, the age of a lot of the Earth science is in this right here, and it goes from the Precambrian. Well, it starts 2.5 billion years ago and goes all the way up. So now, if uniformitarianism is true, and we came from a proto RNA some 3.5 billion years ago, okay, then this column right here, this geological column, is the best evidence that we have to go on. And if it was laid down very slowly over time, then it's exactly what it says it is. But if a worldwide flood actually happened 4,400 years ago, what you're looking at here is the way that it was laid down and the animals that died in the layers that they died in over the course of a very short period of time, less than a year. Huh. So while we're having this dialogue or the discussion on whether or not this is true, fossils come into the picture. Now, the interesting thing is since the 1980s, fast fossilization has already made its inroads into the
Yeah, I've actually got what do you call it? A citation, a secular one, where they found this fish and they found all the I've actually
Oh
got it
yeah.
here. They found this fish and they found all the cells in its eyes, like the cone cells and that in its eyes were all preserved, and the cells in its body, they even had structures inside of some cells and stuff like that. And they did these
Wow.
tests and they got these fish and they left them to rot in different circumstances, right? And they found that the fish would have had to fossilize within like hours to preserve those things from their tests. And they put fish in different conditions and let them decay and measured the decay rate, and they found that the fish would have had to have fossilized within hours, not days, not even days. If it was days, it would have the structures would have been broken down. So yeah,
Wow.
that's pretty full on, man. So under the right conditions, pressure, if it's under the right pressures and it's got mineralized water flowing through it at the right temperatures, it can fossilize within hours. So this stuff where they say that it takes millions of years or thousands of years or whatever, it's rubbish, because you can go to a waterfall in Japan, I think it is. I'm not sure if it's Japan. Don't quote me on that one, but there's this waterfall where you can hang a teddy bear up under the waterfall and go back in like a couple of weeks or a month, and your teddy bear's fully fossilized. Did you know that? Did you ever hear of that, Sea Science? Oh, you
I
cut
think you
out.
cut out there for a second, or I did, but yeah, I mean,
Oh, you
the
cut
whole
out.
thing with the
Yeah.
fish and even the eyes, like the lenses of their eyes being preserved, that's amazing. I think we should take a look at that in a bit.
No, there were structures inside the cells. They actually found structures inside some of the cells. So to have those structures and not have those structures break down, like they break down within in hours. So they had to
Yeah.
fossilize within hours, just like really quickly. So that there's all this stuff about where fossilization takes, a long time is absolute rubbish. But anyway, you want to get back on with this, or you got something to say?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would just add to that like he was saying here in this bit, that the evolutionary story is starting to line up more with the creation story, because they're starting to come out with the fact that fossils obviously form faster than they thought, because they had been saying, hundreds of thousands of years, tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of years for fossilization to occur. But when they look at these fossils and they realize what's preserved in there, that it must have happened much faster. So I also see Olive in the chat. Hey, Olive, good to see you. So, but yeah, that
Oh,
fish
hang
is
on.
an amazing,
Oh, hang on.
preserved.
I think that's on my channel. I got to give Oliver a wrench.
Oh, there
So
you go.
yeah. Okay. All right. You go on there. Okay. I'll play the video. We'll get on.
All right, play on, brother. All right.
the conversation. What they're teaching on the collegiate level. Now, you may not get this by watching Jurassic Park. You're not going to get this by watching the History Channel or the National Geographic Channel or any of the archaeological or whatever channels, science channels. They're not going to talk about this. It's almost like it's hidden in plain sight. I'm not going to go as far as to accuse anybody of anything, but they are now believing that fossilization and the formation of alluvial or sedimentary rock, like this sandstone, happened catastrophically and the fossilization process quickly. Now, both of those elements or characteristics have to be in place or have to be at work if there was a worldwide flood over a course of 1 year recently, 4,400 years ago. You would have to have the entire geological column laid down during that year, and you would have to have very fast fossilization. Now, both critics of Genesis and the proponents of evolution since the 1980s have said that this is a fast process. But again, you're not going to hear it. So, but let's just talk about it. They both agree, but how old they are is where they disagree. But I think this is fascinating. Evidence of fast fossilization. Friends, there is a paleontologist who came public in something called the Medusa effect. He believed for a short period of time initially, but I'll explain what that is. He believed that the very act of fossilization was what killed the animals, meaning that when a fish gets caught up in a catastrophic event and it gets sealed off and it's still alive, that the fossilization process is so quick that it actually kills the item that's encapsulated, and the fossilization process is what kills it. Interesting. Now, he did back off on that, but why would a paleontologist say that this is what happens? Well, obviously, there are waymarks.
Growing up in Kuwait, yeah, born and raised over there 20 years of my life. I remember like when I was in high school.
Like crime scene investigation that gave him this idea that fossils are fast. They form fast. Well, friends, think about this for a second. Take a good look at this. Look how
And there's another thing too. It just looks like a any shrimp. If you're American shrimp, if you're Australian prawn, but any
Good
shrimp
point.
that you'd
Yeah,
find
living fossil
anywhere.
right there. Sure.
Yep. And they give it a different genus name. And so how they confuse people is they'll have a completely like you'll find a crustacean that'll look exactly like that alive today, right? But they'll give it a completely different genus name, and that way it makes it hard for people to dig into the weeds and find out about these things, and that's why they do that, to make it confusing. And
So true.
the narrative. Yeah.
But it's
tender
obvious
part of
that
this
that's a shrimp.
Yeah. Oh yeah, obvious. 100%.
They can name it whatever they want, but
Yeah, they can call it a different genus all they like, but it's just a shrimp. It's simple as that, or a prawn if you're Australian. But
that is a
there's
great
nothing,
fossil he's got in his hand, though. Like, I mean, that is beautiful. So
yeah, it is.
just
That is fantastic.
perfectly preserved there. Hey,
And it's
there's
like,
Big Bad Mama and Missing Mata's in the chat. That's cool. Hey guys.
It's as thin as a piece of paper too. That fossil itself, like that fossil's all compacted into that little thin piece of rock, and that fossil itself,
Sure.
if you tried to dig that out of there, would probably be like a piece of cardboard. I mean, like it's really thin. So that's the pressure that it's under, and it's still managed to keep its shape, even though it compacted in and pressurized. It would have fossilized really, really quickly under those pressures and temperatures. Awesome.
Just flatten it right out.
Yeah, and fossilized it like that. Anyway,
It's amazing because it's like a single shrimp just sitting there. You think there'd be a bunch more shrimp around it, and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, in that area where that fossil came from, there probably was. They were probably spread out more, like a foot apart each or something. They're probably miles, probably thousands of them, or millions even. Sometimes it just depends. Sometimes you only find one. You never really know exactly what you're going to get. But one thing you can count on is that 99.985% of the fossil record is made up of marine invertebrates.
Oh, I
So
gotta
it's
throw
only
Missing
like
Mod a wrench here. She just got a new
1.5%.
channel, so I'm gonna throw her a wrench.
Yeah. It's only 1.5% of the fossil record is made up of actual fossilized vertebrates, right? And the rest is just like invertebrates. They're very, very small. I think it's actually smaller than that. I think it's like vertebrates are only 0.01% or something, or
Sure.
0.1%. Like it's massively small. It's incredibly small
Oh yeah, the
amount
marine
of
life makes
vertebrate
up the
fossils.
majority of it. I know that.
Yeah, and yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And most of them are marine invertebrates too. So
Hmm.
it's people don't realise that if they knew that, they'd get the idea that it might have been a big flood deposit across the whole Earth. They don't want
Yeah.
to push that narrative too hard. Anyway, let's
Yeah, I
get on with
mean,
it.
and it makes sense with a global flood because the land animals wouldn't have been preserved as much as the sea animals, for one thing, because it'd be
They
the water
float.
rushing inland, and there's not as much
Yeah.
like cavernous areas. But what you see is inland. Yeah, so the
Well,
desert
they got
basins
fossilized. Yeah,
are loaded
they got
with
fossilized.
fossils.
Yeah,
So here, that
yeah.
that brings me to this question here from Big Mad Mama, or statement more. In a massive flood, the fossils and minerals would all be jumbled. That's not what we see, except in isolated layers that were catastrophic in nature, like a landslide.
Yeah.
Well, I'd answer that with the majority of the fossil deposits across the planet are a bunch of animals and sea life and plants, all jumbled together in these fossil graveyards. And I mean, there's these desert basins across the planet where you can go to the dig sites, and whales and everything's just piled on top of each other. So I don't know what you mean. I mean, let's see. In a massive flood, the fossil minerals are jumbled, and that's not what we see, except in isolated layers. Catastrophic nature, like a landslide or a flood. You don't want to leave out that option. A catastrophic natural event like a flood, right? I could pile all
Okay.
those into a pile.
All right, I got something here, and then we're going to play the video after this. I'm just going
All
to
right.
quickly read this. Okay, in the Ashley phosphate layer, right? This is a massive layer that goes right across the United States, right up into Canada, because it's a massive, massive layer. In this 18-inch layer, you will see why it was suppressed. In it are found the fossils of whales, fish, modern sharks, megalodon sharks, toads, crocodiles, alligators, turtles, rabbits, monkeys, horses, camels, elephants, mammoths, mastodons, ichthyosaurs, rhinoceroses, giant sloths, muskrats, deer, pigs, dogs, hadrosaur dinosaurs, iguanodon dinosaurs, plesiosaurs, human bones, teeth, and artifacts. The human bones teeth part, that they threw those away, and they said that they threw them away because they were worried that they'd be out shunned by the evolutionary community, and they admitted to it later. So there's no hard evidence of that. I just want to say that outright before all the atheists start jumping on it, going, anyway. So there you go. Fossils, and so
Sure.
there you go. That's all those fossils all mixed together in a massive area. So that just shows as the flood came up, the higher up animals would be able to run away from it, and they sort of floated more, and they would have got all washed together in these great big conglomerations. And in there you got all sorts of marine mixed in with that, and everything, and fish, and like everything. So that just shows that it's like for a layer to go, I think it's 1,800 miles or it's somewhere like 1,000 miles to 1,800 miles long, and so I don't know how wide. It's not that wide. It's only 100 miles or a couple of 100 miles wide, but it's 1,800 miles or 1,000 miles long, and
Wow,
that
that
is
is a huge fossil deposit. I wonder how
massive.
the evolutionists would explain that, other than like possibly they were
They would have been
fossilized earlier, and then they were all washed into that ravine or into that depressed geologically depressed area, you know,
Yeah.
afterwards, right? And then they're all mixed together
Yes.
then. Like,
Yes.
they'd have to make up a
Or they'd
huge,
say,
you know, narrative for it.
or the other thing they'd say is, wait a minute, or the other thing they'd say is that it'd all get washed in there. There would have been a massive local flood, But no, sorry, you've got all the different dinosaur bones. You're right. You got all the different dinosaur bones mixed that had to come in later and all washed together. They even believe that the phosphate itself is made out of bone, and they mine this, and how they know it is they mine it for fertilizer. It's phosphate. It's a fertilizer.
Wow.
So they even believe that the phosphate itself is made up of entirely bone. So, you know, that's amazing, man. You got this layer that goes like let's just say 1,000 miles to keep it safe. I think it's 800 or 1,000 or whatever. But let's say 800 miles, 800 miles long and 300 miles wide. And it's 18 inches thick, and it's got all of those different creatures in it. So and then actual phosphate itself is made up of bone itself. So and then you got the bones that didn't turn into phosphate that are just sort of like preserved in there as fossils. And you got all those different creatures mixed together, and you can just see that they're all washed together, like they're all it all happened at the same time, sort of thing. So you got all of these animals that are supposed to be living hundreds of millions of years apart, just being all washed together. Anyway,
And this is the phosphate layer in Western US.
I don't know where it is. I know all I know is it goes up into Canada. It goes all the way from the United States right up into Canada. That's all I know.
Wow.
I don't know where it runs from. I've got a feeling it might run from you. I don't know where. I don't know. I just don't know.
Now,
So,
now this
I mean, yeah.
this geological formation here, this layer of phosphate that contains all these different life forms, you know, this perfectly fits into the creation model, you know, with the Great Flood, because ideally, when you have a global flood, or when you think about it, it's not like a local flood. Okay, it's basically an idea where the sea level rose over the land. So, you know, it might have seemed like to the people at the time that the land was actually sinking into the sea. And even like their islands were sinking, when actually it was the sea level rising. So, what it did is all the animals that could move were pretty much chased inland, you know, and then when they were overcome by the water, they were washed into the geologically depressed areas across the planet on the surface. Okay, so that's how you have all these deposits on the land. They say it's all local floods, and a lot of them will admit that it was created by water, but they just can't bring themselves to believe in the flood of the Bible. So, but I think
Yeah,
that pretty much answers that.
yeah, it
So,
does. Let's get on with it. All right.
all right.
How long is this thing going to lay around until these antennae fall off? His soft body deteriorates before it can get into any kind of fossilization process, the way we understand it. I'm saying long periods of time. Let's go ahead and open up our little fish guy, and then I'm going to show you something, okay? This I have not seen yet, so you're seeing this live for the first time. Welcome, Pamela and Shadow Wizard. All right, welcome. Yep, Robin, glad you're here. All right. Can't wait to see this. It looked cool in the pictures. I hope it's cool. And this is a fish skeleton. And what's the point? Those of you just joining us, what's the point of a fish skeleton? When you see fossilization fish, and I'm going to show you a larger one in just 2 seconds here, you see that they have been naturally preserved, a lot of the whole thing, the bones, the flesh, fins. And I just want to demonstrate just exactly how delicate this is. And question, what kind of process has to take place in order for a fish that can deteriorate quite rapidly to maintain its integrity and then become a fossil? Wow. look at that.
Yeah.
Now take a good look at that. These are the fish bones, okay? If the flesh was to fall off and those bones were able to maintain their integrity, then you still it would be like a miracle for it to stick around long enough in order for it to go through a fossilization process, unless the fossilization process itself is very, very rapid. But there's elements to this fossilization process that when you look it up on the internet, and I did, wanted to get educated on this. What's interesting is that you will see this is how it shows how it's done. Okay, let me show you. Here's our little stunt fish for the evening's live here, and let's just say that this is. Let me just move this to the side. Let's just say that this right here is the. Sorry, monkey man, you're gonna have to give me this. Let's say this is the bottom of a sea or a lake or a body of water. Okay. All right. Let's not even enter into catastrophism. Let's just say, because quite honestly, what you'll see is not catastrophism involved necessarily in the fossilization process. This is what you'll see demonstrated on the internet when you ask, how do things fossilize? Fish dies, doesn't bloat and float, it sinks to the bottom. All right. Then we have silt that goes over the fish. Silt covers the fish.
Why does anyone still use ponchos if they never actually work? All you need is the bearskin waterproof tactical jacket.
It's a nice looking jacket, though.
Yeah, it is.
And then some more silt. And some
Yeah,
more
I'd like
silt
it.
covers
I'd
the
love to get one
fish.
myself. Bearskin hoodie.
There you go.
Friends, silt covering a fish doesn't produce a fossil. It doesn't. I heard of an experiment one time where they took a whole cage of catfish and they shoved it down in the mud. Okay. You'll hear silt, mud when talking about fossilization process. They shoved it 5 feet, I think it was 5 or 6 feet in the mud. They pulled it up. I believe it was within a week. And you know what they found? They found a cage full of nothing. The fish were completely
Yeah.
eaten, rotted, however, gone. So we're to believe that a fish, floats, sinks to the bottom, and then silt covers its delicate little body, and that somehow that right there, no. What the geologists are starting to say now, friends, is that every layer that you see, let's say in the Grand Canyon, every layer that we're seeing, every fossil that has been made is through localized catastrophism. Now, catastrophism is a dirty word in the geology of today and yesterday, especially yesterday. It's not until the 80s that they started to use different words to describe catastrophism when it comes to the geology of the earth. What that means is that every layer that you see, according to this idea that we're talking hundreds of millions or billions of years, between each layer there was like nothing going on, nothing. And then the next layer, catastrophism. Next layer, catastrophism. In between the layers, nothing. Next layer, catastrophism. Fossils, catastrophism. You need catastrophism in order to get these locked in so that no microbes, no air, no nothing gets to it. Okay, we're building on something here. Don't go away. Here's the next step. So we'll just put Mr. Fish right there just so we can use him as a mascot. So let me show you a mortality plate right here. And let's take a look at this as a crime scene, okay? What you have here is a fish and 3 leaves. Is there anything more there? Oh, do you see what that is? That's one of those helicopter things. Helicopter seeds, you know what I mean? So this becomes this. The fish that I showed you, whatever, becomes this. Now, I don't think this is that necessarily, because this is bone.
I wonder what sort of
This isn't.
wonder what sort of plant that would match up to that's alive today. I actually, you know what I think that
Leaves?
looks like? You know, wait a minute. That looks like a what do they call them? There's a tree up in north of New South Wales, up in the tropical areas of subtropical to tropical areas of New South Wales, and it's a big leaf, exactly that shape, and it's got fur all over it. And if you get the fur on you, man, it really itches the hell out of you, and it grows into a massive tree, and it's got exactly that shape to it. I can't remember the name of it now. What a bummer. But it's
Well,
up,
yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about how many living fossil trees there are. I mean,
yeah,
it just
it
goes
grows
on
on
and
Bat
on.
Island. It grows on Bat Island. It grows.
Oh,
The
wow.
tree I'm thinking of definitely grows on Bat Island at Bellingen, New South Wales. So you go to Bellingen, New South Wales, and go over to Bat Island. I wouldn't recommend it because you got bats crapping on you and all sorts of stuff. You catch bat viruses and Hendra virus is like 50 to 100% death rate, by the way. Hendra and Nipah and Hendra
Oh.
viruses are 50
They tried to
100%
blame the bats
rate.
for the coronavirus in the first place.
Yeah, I know, but in Australia we've got this thing called Nipah and Hendra virus with the bats,
Sure.
and it's 50 to 100% death rate. Literally says that if you Google it. Nipah Hendra virus death rate. Have a look.
Oh, man. So if a
Just
bat
go and Google it.
or if a bat poops on you, you're done.
And it's got Nipah or Hendra, and you contract it, you've got a 50 to 100% chance you're going to die. Between 50 to 100, that is bad. So I'd recommend don't go walking on Bat Island. Anyway,
Oh, man.
but hopefully they've blocked people from walking on it by now. But they've got a caravan park right next to it, and you got bats crapping on. Oh, mate, it's not good. But anyway, that tree that I was talking about that looks like that grows on that island, and I remember walking around, and I'm telling the truth about this. I wiped my ass. I thought that's a nice big furry leaf. That's a nice big furry leaf. Oh, that'll work really well. It's like toilet paper. Oh yeah.
You'll
Yeah,
never
well,
forget that leaf.
No. Not in a million years. But it looks exactly like that. It looks exactly like that. Not exactly.
Wow.
This one's got little spikes around the edge of the leaf. I think those ones are more smooth, but it's that shape. It's like that heart shape, that weird sort of teardrop heart sort of shape. Yeah. Anyway, all right.
Intact, friends. Let me see if I can get this a little bit closer to you. By the way, I appreciate your support, because we're eventually going to have 4 cameras. And
Oh, I actually caught some virus from that island. I went, I was 16. It was in 86. I went back down to my grandmother's place at Port Macquarie on the way home and stayed with her for a while, and I was really sick. And she said, "Why are you so sick? It's the middle of summer. You shouldn't have a flu." She said, "Where have you been?" I said, "I've been walking around Bat Island." And she said, "Oh, you got the bat virus." And I got so sick I couldn't smoke. And I was, even when I got the bad flu back then, I'd never stop smoking. I'd smoke cigarettes, even when I had a bad flu. But
Sure.
with this one, I got so sick. I was 16. I was super fit, mate. Run up walls, mate. Walk 40 kilometers and get up the next morning and walk another 80, sort of thing. I was that fit. Luckily, I was. And I couldn't smoke for 3 weeks. 3 weeks, I couldn't smoke a cigarette. I was that sick and I almost died. And so, yeah, I and that's why. And I remember the government in Australia, in New South Wales, around Sydney, Australia, back in the old days, they started shooting a lot of the bats. They let them back in now, but they started shooting a lot of the bats, and I was against it. Now I found out about that Nipah and Hendra virus. I'm all for it. Get rid of the bloody bats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's,
yeah.
I
I mean, there's. I don't understand why there are viruses other than, for punishment. I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
There's
there was a
reason
woman
for
in
everything.
Australia. There was a woman in Australia, a bat went to attack her child and she jumped in front of it and it bit her on the face and she got some disease that kills you in 48 hours flat. And there's nothing they could do for her except watch her die. That was
Wow.
in the news. That was in the news. So, Google can go fact check that, or YouTube if they like. So that's in Australia. So you want to watch out. I'm not laughing that the woman died. I'm just laughing how deadly it really is deadly. You think that, I'm not going to talk about the other. You know what they're like.
Well, they use the bat guano for fertilizer, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't even go anywhere near your bat's fertilizer. That's for sure.
No, you
People
would
be out there
anywhere.
scooping
Well,
up.
I think you'll find you've got it in the United States as well. Have a look. Nipah and
Well, there
hantavirus in
could
bat
be.
populations in the United States. Have a look and see. You just stay away from bats altogether. You just don't go near bats, man. They carry all sorts of weird and wonderful viruses and diseases. Just stay away from bats. If you're in an area where there's bats, just do everything you can to like get sonic, noisy things to scare them off and just get them away from your property.
Well, I hear the evolutionists believe that bats flew from South Africa to South America or something over the Atlantic Ocean or some such thing.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
No.
And they were so big that they also carried like tiny monkeys too, and that's how the monkeys got there. So.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, monkeys that they were riding the bats across with little harnesses and
But if you want to see something really funny, you should look up bat evolution. That's funny. Goes all the way back to bats.
okay. All right, let's get on with this.
All right.
Interesting.
And a microscope.
Oh, and you've got a fish in with the leaves there as well. I forgot to mention.
We expand our
prime example of
the last few weeks.
multiple species
We're working
together.
on it. So then I'll have other cameras that we'll be able to get real close with this stuff. Take a look at that right there. That's a fully formed fish that didn't deteriorate, along with leaves that are what? They're flat and they're in perfect condition. This has been laying around the house for the last couple of weeks, okay? And it hasn't deteriorated like most leaves do. But even so, it starts to get a little bit gamey. The water keeps them flat and keeps them hydrated, and then they get buried right along with this fish. Now, what were 3 leaves and a helicopter doing getting squished with massive amounts of sedimentary material? What could have caused it? Once again, the geologists have to admit that it's a localized, not a global. We're contending that it was global, that it was a local, catastrophic geological event. That no longer can we look at these fossils and say, oh, well, the fish was buried in some dirt or some silt, and then eventually it turned into a fossil. No, no. This is a crime scene. What is it that we're observing? We're observing that these things were preserved and they were buried catastrophically and instantly with a profound amount of overburden on top of it to preserve it and to give the necessary pressure for the fossilization process to begin. Now, granted, there may be other fossilization processes that I haven't learned yet, but this is kind of the one that we're faced with most of the time. All right. So enter in the Frankenfossil machine. This right here was designed to replicate the catastrophic worldwide or local flood. We'll just give the benefit of the doubt here, okay? A catastrophic fossilization process, okay? I'm going to break it down just a little bit. So what we did was we took like a leaf like this, or the gentleman that produced the Frankenfossil machine, and we put this in here with clay and some water. So it had minerals, it had water, and the water was squeezed out when these were tightened. This was all in this canister right here. Then it was put into an oven and it was baked or heated for 24 hours. Okay. You may have seen this already, but in the context of what we're talking about here. And that's what it looked like. And there were other leaves that were put a little bit further down in this matrix, and this is stone, and this is, there you go.
Laugh out loud, made his own fossils. That's awesome. This is an awesome video. I love this video.
Oh, 24 hours it took to create this.
When I weighed 300 pounds, I made a sacred commitment that I was going to lose the weight.
So what have we learned? Fossilization, fast fossilization is necessary.
And look at the pressure on that machine. Look at those springs on that machine. The pressure in there would be nowhere near as much as the pressures that would be down in the, like hundreds of meters down or 100 meters down in the underneath mud. That is an enormous amount of pressure like that they'd be under in nature, but that's a lot of pressure there too. You can't believe he just made his own fossils. Unbelievable. That is awesome. He just killed it on this one.
If you're going to promote the idea of
Maybe
a
I'm
worldwide
back.
catastrophic flood,
Testing.
you have to have fast forming fossils.
Yeah, you're back. I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. He's made this.
Let's go.
Come.
Let's go, StreamYard.
Yeah, I know. It's just that it's your internet, man. It's my internet's, like my internet costs a lot of money. It's expensive as hell, but it's you have to pay a lot of money. Like I'm paying, $1,000 a year for internet, when on the mainland they're only paying $300 a year, 300 and something dollars a year. I'm paying just over 1,000. So yeah. Anyway, that's why, if I was working off mobile internet, I'd be dropping in and out just like you, because I've actually had mobile internet here where we used to have a phone and we'd share out the internet to other phones and things, and it would just, I'd be having exactly the same problem if I was on mobile internet here as you're having. Identical. So we'll play on.
In order for fossilization to even take place. Where do we see fossilization right now taking place in a non-catastrophic environment? Zero. There is no, it's not about time, friends. It's not about millions of years, billions of years, 100,000 years. It's about the conditions, the chemistry.
Am I back? Oh, we're back.
Pressure. The pressure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let him. He's talking about the pressure now. I just want to hear this.
That is placed on this leaf that I just showed you. Simulation, not just simulation. It actually is 3,000 psi. That's 5 to 10,000 feet, whether it's wet or dry, of overburden. Meaning.
Oh, that's good to know. Now I've got a reference to know how much pressure is on. That's awesome.
The sandstone, the clay, the whatever that compressed this, that was on top of it, was 5 to 10,000 feet of it. Where are you going to get 5 to 10,000 feet of overburden, even if it's a local flood? And think about this for a second. How many feet of water is a local flood?
Yeah, that's a great point.
That's an excellent point.
What does a
Yeah. You want to keep playing? Or
yeah, play on, man. This guy's handling it. Yeah.
local flood look like? With friends, I've looked it up, and it looks like 10, 20, 30 feet at the most. And it's only usually for a short period of time. And yet we have over 100 Native American flood legends in their earliest history, orally orally maintained and preserved, and then recorded anywhere between the 1700s to the early 1900s by those who had contact with the Native Americans all over the United States. And what's interesting is every single one of them said that it was worldwide, that it was right up to the top or surpassed their local mountain. And typically it was most of them it was because men were evil and that a higher power did this. Interesting. So when you add it all up, fast forming fossils, sure, it can fit into, now it does over the last 40 years, into the evolutionary or shall I say modern geological worldview. You know, it does, but it also fits perfectly, and it's necessary if there was a worldwide flood, because these fossils right here are no more than 4,400 years old. Oh, there's one on the back. Friends, that's
That's
a graveyard.
They're always trying to get me to play games. I don't play any games at all, ever. And they're always giving me adverts for games, trying to get me to play games. I hate games, man. I reckon they're
Get you to
spyware.
waste your time. And
Yeah, and wait and mess up your phone. Like I reckon a lot of them have got spyware in them and stuff. I don't like them anyway. They have too many permissions and too many on your phone and stuff. So that's why I don't like them and don't use games. So they can keep playing the game ads all they like, and I'll never use them. But anyway, I've used to play games, but not anymore. They're all gone off my phone.
Yard out there, graveyard of all sorts of mostly marine animals that are in the fossil record. Approximately, what is it, 95 to 97% of the fossil record is just marine animals. Okay. All right. So I promised you, let me see if I, caramel. Okay. I'm glad you guys were here. Free pint of ice cream. I'm glad. All right. For those of you that want to get a little cozier with us, this is, just had this sign made, by the way. I hope you're impressed with it. And if you're not, that's okay. But text me. Take a screenshot of that. Somebody can put that in the comments section. That would be great. 315-509-9075. Text me. Just say, hey, John. And I'll say, hey, Bob. Hey, Sue. Hey, Ken. Welcome to the text line for the museum. It's free. And I'll text you when we go live. I promise I won't be obnoxious. Usually I text the group, which is a few hundred.
yes,
maybe
yes.
at the
And I'm
most
gonna
a week. And you're
put
also welcome to
a
ask
link to
questions.
his channel in the chat too, so you guys can subscribe if you want to. He's, like I said, he's decent. He's a YAC. You know, he knows the whole YAC model and quite a bit about fossilization, as you can see.
Yeah, which is good, which is awesome. Yeah, he gave some really good. Now I can, I'm always talking about the pressures. Well, now I've got a reference to how much pressure. 10,000 feet of overburden equals 6,000 psi, and 6,000 psi would be equivalent to how many tons? I don't know, but I'll have to look into that. But at least I've got a reference now, and that's awesome. That's something I've really been looking for a long time. Can't find it easily, that sort of stuff, unless you're a scientist.
And we've talked before on our open mic here about how fast fossils have to form, and concretions, the geological formation called concretion, that actually is created by the fossilization process. So a lot of the rocks at these beaches that are rounded, even the ones behind the screen here, are probably concretions, which would be they'd have a living form in the center of them, or what was at one point. So the animals are always found in what would be a matrix, some rock matrix. So it's the sediment that's surrounding them gets turned into a rock, and that's what a concretion is. So, but they're finding that these things form very quickly, like in weeks to months. And we have literature backing up this idea. So, and the idea that it's been long taught that it takes tens to hundreds of thousands of years for fossils to form, and that they form just by getting covered up in mud. You know, that's what they've been taught for so long. But that's why I like to ask evolutionists, you know, or evolution theory believers, you know, how do you think fossils form? Do you think that really explains the fossils we see? You know, these fossil deposits. So, and as he said, like there was an experiment done where they covered so many catfish in mud, and he thinks it was like 6 feet of mud or something. And they dug it up 2 days later. There was nothing left. It was just mush. You know, so that doesn't, you know, create a fossil. That's why fossils aren't forming everywhere today. You know, they get covered up in a landslide. So it's an interesting thing to know how fossils form and how it actually is evidence for young Earth creation rather than and a catastrophic events forming them than these evolution narratives that take hundreds of thousands of years to form them. So their narrative is changing and lining up more with what the creationists have said all the time. So that's really exciting.
That's 3 ton. That's 6,000 psi in ton force short / square inch ton. So it's 3 ton per square inch. That's a lot of weight, mate, on those leaves. 3 ton per square inch.
And water weighs a whole heck of a lot. So, I mean, that's the best way to explain it, I think. Another thing, you know, you have all these marine fossils.
And that's forcing minerals in. That's got heat in there as well. When that happens, warmth and heat, and it's got all that pressure forcing minerals in, so it fossilizes extremely quickly.
Yeah. Now, I don't know what happened to the literature that surrounds this photo, but it explains how this is a concretion. And as you can see, this formed so fast that this fish was in the middle of eating its dinner when it got covered up. So, I mean, that proves it's catastrophic event.
But I have seen. I've got to add. I have seen. I'm a fisherman, or I was. Where I caught probably hundreds of thousands of fish in my life. Hundreds of thousands, not just thousands or tens of thousands. And I've seen fish floating on the ocean that have tried to swallow something that's too big for them to eat, and they just died. It's choked them to death. But that being said, that has to be that even if that happened, where the fish ate and then died like that, break down. Like you can still see, you know, details there. It's got flesh. It's got fins. The fins would have decayed very quickly. So those fins would have decayed within hours. You know, like not even a full day it would have taken for those fins to decay away again. And you got to remember, there's bacteria living inside of us. We've got 1-2 kilos of bacteria in us. So those fish, when they're buried, they say, but there's no oxygen down there, and that, well, the bacteria inside of them keep consuming things until the oxygen runs out, sort of thing. So, and for it to stop that happening, you need a lot of pressure and a lot of thing and a fast fossilization process. So it just nails it right there. You got these fossils all over the earth like this.
And they're all evidence for a flood. And, you know, they're all fish. I mean, we're not finding fish that are forming half-formed appendages, you know, on their way to becoming full fish. There aren't these transitional forms that were predicted by Darwin and never discovered. There's lots to be said. I also dropped a link to an article in the private chat. I got to get John's link to you guys too here. So
actually, my maths isn't very good, so I'd say it might be more than 3 ton per square inch. It might be like 30 ton, or you know, like or something. But my maths is way off. But I know it's either 3 ton or more per square inch, and that's an enormous amount of pressure that would deform anything. Like we were talking about, they find these ape skulls in the ground, and they're all misshapen and under this 3 ton per square inch pressure on them, and they're being crushed by little rocks and things in the mud and broken up and pushed out of shape. And then they fossilize in this weird way, in this weird deformed
Yeah, and
shape.
every fossil
Pressure.
is deformed by
Yeah.
the fossilization process. It seems if it's not
But they,
flattened.
yeah, but then they it's
more
like little
like,
foot skull.
especially with the cranium,
little-
because there's a lot of
What?
space
I've just got to finish what
know,
I'm saying. It's
to
like a little
cave
foot
in.
skull.
and crush.
Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
those will always be
Mhm.
deformed. So
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Wait a minute.
yeah,
I was
my
almost
roboter.
finished. What? Wait a minute. No. Just wait. I was almost finished. And you got like the little foot skull, and you've got 3 ton per square inch, say, on that skull, and that's going to push it out of shape and deform it. And you got this pressure all over it, and in one part you might have a rock pushing up in the middle of it, forcing the jaw out slightly as it's under that pressure and fossilizing. It'll deform it. And then they pull this jaw out. They say, well, look, this jaw's a different shape. It must be in the evolutionary process. They know damn well what I just said is probably more likely than their stories about evolution. An ape man. And that's all I had to say. That's what I finished. That's all I wanted to say about the deformation I was always talking about here. He just gave me a good inroads to that with his pressure. So anyway, there you go, man. I'm sorry. You can finish what you're saying now. All right. You dropped out again. Okay. All right. We'll have to. Anyway, yeah. Well, if you've got a skull like an ape skull, a young gorilla skull, a juvenile gorilla, and it's under 3 ton per square foot or per square inch or whatever it is. I think it's 3 ton per square inch or more pressure, and it's got, say, a boulder as big as a large orange there, or a small orange, or whatever, an apple, and it's pushing up under the jaw, and it's got all that pressure forcing it, force the jaw out and deform the jaw. The top of the jaw, if there was a rock on top, would push in, crush the skull in, and it'd just deform it all out of shape and make a juvenile ape skull just look like a like a, say, some weird hominid or something like that. Like, yeah. So anyway, sea science. Where is he? Hang on. Let's see. While we're waiting for him. Oh, here he is. He's back. Oh no. Oh, sorry. Oh no. Yeah. Okay, you're back. Sorry. Can we hear you? No. Oh, it's your internet, man. That sucks. Mobile internet, cell phone internet, cell tower internet, or mobile internet as we call it in Australia, that really sucks. It really stinks. Yeah, if you're relying on cell towers and mobile internet, this sort of thing happens all the time. It happens here anyway, where I am. Not even if you live in the city, it doesn't. If you live in the city, you get like really good coverage and 5G and all that sort of stuff really fast. But not out in the country. Not enough people out here. That's why my internet's so expensive, because there's not so many people out here, and if it wasn't that expensive, they just wouldn't be able to afford to run it. So they just tell us to get bent and take the towers down. So it's not cheap, man, living out in the country to get an internet. I know people like 10 years ago that were paying $600-700 a month to get half decent internet.
And I'm back. Am I back?
Yes, clear as.
All right. Yeah, I had to reload my cookies, and reset all that. So.
Yep.
There was an article in the private chat, and that explains how they now know that fossils actually form within a very short period of time. So, and it's by Forbes, which isn't really well, they do peer-reviewed articles, you know, but more they report the peer-reviewed articles that they've read and kind of interpret what they mean, basically. So either way, it's the source of that one photo here for the fish. See the fish.
I would not want to have his second name going through high school. Poor bugger. I feel sorry for him, mate. Poor guy. You poor thing. I really, really sympathise
Yeah,
with
that's
you,
true.
mate. That would have been horrible. Anyway. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, he threw together a good video though. I mean, and he does these little
Yeah.
these lives once in a while.
Yeah.
He's always getting new fossils that he's talking about, and like he's had what he thinks are fingers, you know, human fingers
Hmm.
in a fossil form, like rock,
Yeah.
which is something as you know, young Earth creationists we should be seeking out. Would be pieces of human remains that would be in rock form, you know. So, and there is that one video that talks about fossilized fingers that we could watch, I guess, too. It's pretty
Yep.
decent.
Yeah, that's I like that one. All right. Yeah, put that in the private chat.
All right, I'll scoot and grab that. I'll be
Okay.
right back.
Okay. Just in time, you were dropping out anyway. Refresh or something. All right. Oh, okay. Sorry. Hang on. Just let me see if I've got my. Yes, I have. All right. Knock a few of these tabs on the head. Too many of them. There. Okay. All right.
All right, am I still roboting?
Oh, sorry. I was just looking for something. I was going
I've
to put it up.
reconnected. All
Okay.
right. Here, let me get this
All
out of
right.
the way.
So
Here.
there it is. So there it is. All right. And just let me get that other one up in the tab. All right.
And this has what would be, or what are claimed to be, are stone human fingers, you know. And basically, it questions anthropology as it is, and the whole story of how humankind came out of Africa. Ideally, we came here through, I mean, according to the narrative of evolutionists, human evolutionists, we didn't come to South America till 10, 20,000 years ago, you know. So to find human remains and fossil layers in South America is a big deal for the paleoanthropological community because it doesn't quite fit their narrative of the out of Africa by Darwin, you know. Darwin's
All right.
whole idea. So what this is it's just another clip from the Mysterious Origins of Man by it was narrated by Charlton Heston here in 1996. It's a pretty decent it's a very interesting documentary. I guess there's like several episodes in this series, and this is from the very first one. So
Documentary. Yeah. All right. So They're going to show, yeah, they show that article. That's good. I was just checking that out. All right, okay. Just let me get that back. All right, so we'll start.
One of the greatest mysteries of mankind is, where did we come from? Scientists and philosophers alike have pondered this elusive question and put forth many explanations. But in truth, no one really knows. Good evening. I'm Charlton Heston. In their search for answers, scientists gather evidence and develop theories based on what they observe. But sometimes evidence turns up that completely contradicts this. Footprints resembling modern man's were discovered in Texas, side by side with dinosaur tracks. Does this mean that man lived
I've got the doc on this.
millions of years ago, at the time of the dinosaur? These 70-ton blocks were somehow transported to the Peruvian mountain temple of Ollantaytambo. The only source of this red granite is 5 miles away on the peak of another mountain. Ancient maps have been discovered which correctly depict the continent of Antarctica centuries before it was discovered by Europeans. Some claim this is evidence of a technologically advanced culture that existed before recorded history began. Tonight we'll examine these and other controversial findings to see if what we're being taught about the origins of man is supported by the evidence. We'll meet a new breed of scientific...
That footprint that he showed earlier, I've got a doc on that, and I've actually got it right on that doc on that spot. So after this, and after this video, I'll show that doc. I'll just show about that foot. As I'll just see what he
Nice.
says about it, and then I'll show you exactly what Don Patton says about it verbatim. All right, because Don Patton was the one that discovered it.
investigators who claim that the history of man on this planet may be radically different than what is accepted today. Before the 19th century, Western man looked to the Bible for an explanation of his origins. In the story of Genesis, God created man from the dust of the earth 6,000 years ago. But when man dug into the earth for answers, he found evidence that appeared to tell a different story: evolution. In 1859, Charles Darwin published his book, The Origin of Species. This book put forth the revolutionary idea that all life on Earth could be explained by the workings of nature. Instead of a supreme being creating the diversity of life, the theory of evolution proposes that accidental changes in nature are the cause. These changes are governed by the process of natural selection, survival of the fittest. Over the past 2 centuries, archaeologists have collected bones and artifacts that suggest there's a logical sequence of evolutionary steps from ape to man. Man's earliest relatives were ape-like beings who appeared around 25 million years ago. The first of those to walk upright emerged 20 million years later. Over the remaining 5 million years, he continued to evolve, passing through various stages of development until modern man, like ourselves, emerged over 100,000 years ago. Archaeologists determine the age of artifacts by the level of strata or layer of earth they're found in. Recent artifacts associated with modern man are generally found close to the surface, while older, more primitive artifacts are in deeper layers of the ground. But sometimes,
when they say deeper layers of the ground, you can have older layers above younger layers in different areas, right? Because they'll say from different geological uplifts, like in certain areas it's uplifted more, and they basically date the layer by the fossils they find in it and the fossils by the layer they find them in. It's circular reasoning. You there? See? Do you want me to just keep
Oh
playing?
yeah, I'm here. Oh yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Fine. Yep. All right.
Sure. Yeah.
sometimes artifacts are found that break all the rules. Archaeologists call them anomalous artifacts. What happens when we find a modern human skull in rock strata far beneath even the oldest of man's ancestors? In their controversial
Throw it
book,
as-
Forbidden Archaeology, Michael Cremo and Dr. Richard
Did you want to say something?
Well, I was just gonna say if they found a skull in the wrong layers, they'd just toss it out.
Yeah, often they do. Yeah, that's what Carl Werner said. They just find things in the layers that doesn't match up with the evolutionary narrative, and they just throw it away. They said you should have what you should have is a Tyrannosaurus Rex with all the mammals basically that you see today running around its feet. But if they did that in as a sort of in the museum displays. But he said if they did that, then it would give people the impression that man and dinosaurs lived together.
Huh.
So they're basically finding modern animals and modern birds with Tyrannosaurus Rex, and they just find a modern bird and they just toss it aside. Yeah,
Sure.
and they
Oh
haven't
yeah,
admitted
even
that.
the fully avian
Thompson.
fossils coming out
Sorry,
of China. You know. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, even the fully aviated, what did I say? Even the fully avian fossils coming out of China, like the Orionis fossils, you know, like you were saying, that's birds being found right along with dinosaurs. They're supposed to be in the Jurassic era. So that's something they reported, though, because it came out of China, maybe? I don't know. Maybe they don't have the same paleoanthropologists or paleontologists looking at the stuff. So maybe our best creation evidence is going to come out of China's paleontology. You never know.
well, I'm sure the Chinese have caught on now that a lot of their finds are backing up creation, so they'd be burying a lot of it now. The CCP would be if they find.
Yeah,
something
no
like that,
doubt. I mean, if they were going to
they'd
come
bury
out
it.
with it, they'd come out with it.
Well, Xi Jinping, the guy who ran the media for the CCP, basically the outlet of the CCP that told the media what to say, he ran that for decades, and he was Xi Jinping's friend for decades. And then he came out and said that he was a Christian, but he supported the Chinese Communist Party wholeheartedly, and he just disappeared. So, you know, you're friends with some guy for decades, and then he comes out as a Christian, but he still supports the Chinese Communist Party and loves the Chinese Communist Party, and then he disappears. What does that tell you?
Sure. And I remember when Z was where he said that he got saved and was a Christian now. I think it was back in 2012, maybe. Yeah. But it made news. Like it was like he came out nationally as a Christian, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
But over in China, they teach that Jesus killed somebody, from what I understand.
Oh, they teach all sorts of evil stuff. All sorts of
yeah.
really just lies, outright lies. They hate religion. They really hate it. It's a 10-year jail sentence, I think, in China. If you have a Bible now, if you get caught with a King James Bible or something like that, it's 10 years. And in North Korea, it's death penalty.
Wow.
It's just outright. Yeah, you go. Or basically, what it is you get sent to a concentration camp, and that's basically like a death sentence. So, get sent to a North Korean concentration camp where they have forced labor and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty full on. Anyway, let's get on with this video. Not get into that.
Yeah, they don't have the Bill of Rights there either. You know.
Oh no. Well, they sort of do. They do. China does have a Bill of Rights, right? If you read through it, they've got all these wonderful flowery things in their constitution that give people all these rights, but in actual practice, they don't. See, what happens is you got in Vietnam. The government in Vietnam actually allows the companies, the workers, to form unions, and they enforce workers' conditions and rights, right? Whereas in China, they don't so much, right? There was one guy who was homeless, and I saw a video of this guy actually working, and he got a nail in his foot, and the guy was just going to send him away with no money for the day, even though he'd worked half a day, and that because he didn't finish the day and he got a nail in his foot, so he didn't even have enough money to go to the hospital. And then the money that he went back and complained, and the money that he gave him wouldn't have even been enough to buy food for that day, let alone go and get a tetanus shot or something at the hospital. And he was homeless. So, you know, they've got all these flowery things in their constitution and workers' protections and all this sort of rubbish, but they don't actually enforce it. And that's why a lot of the big multinationals flock to China and shun Vietnam, because Vietnam is more expensive to manufacture there because the workers have better rights and better conditions. And they don't like that. So what does that say about the multinationals?
True. And I've heard a lot about like the value of life in China is very low, and how it was basically they were selling human organs and stuff on the open market.
You know, that's just conspiracy. Like, there's no hard evidence of that. Like, we've got to say that. But I believe that it's in my opinion, it's true. But we've got to say that because YouTube are a bunch of communists, so we got to be careful. There's no actual hard evidence of that. Like, there's only like eyewitnesses and people lie and stuff like that. But I believe it's true.
Sure, there's articles and stuff, but that doesn't mean, sure.
Yeah, but
just like I was saying, I was reading articles about that there was, a lot of human organs being sold. They're basically taking children off the street and harvesting their organs, kind of like putting them to sleep while they're still alive. And harvesting their
there's no hard
organs.
evidence of that.
Right.
There's no hard evidence, but there is. It's entirely like, I know how they operate. Like, in North Korea, they do experiments. Like, if your great grandfather committed a crime, you can be arrested and thrown in a concentration camp at any moment. Because to the third generation, he visits like on the family. So you have to be 3 generations free of crime to not have to worry about being arrested at any moment. And when you see people cutting grass, you'll think they're cutting grass to cut the grass because they can't afford lawnmowers to cut the grass. It's not that. They're actually cutting the grass and putting it into a bucket and taking it away to boil it up and eat it.
Either you cut it or I did.
Huh? Okay, I know how to fix that. I can fix that problem right now. I'll fix that problem right this moment. Here we go. I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna fix the problem.
But yeah, I mean, with rules like that, you think that would definitely make people follow the rules. If they're going to visit the crimes on the third generation and stuff, if that's true, then that would curb your
if you commit a
crime rate.
You could be condemning.
Yeah. I guess it's a more controlling way to do it. It's not a better way, because that's, how unfair is that to punish someone for someone else's crime, I
mean, that'd be like the American government coming after you and saying, well, your great-grandfather committed a crime. We're going to arrest you. We're going to put you in prison for life for what he did, and we're going to force labor you and work you to death.
Oh, lost you again, brother.
Oh, I see. All right. Can you hear me now? No?
Yes.
Oh, you can.
Clear as day. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. All right. Well, it just kicked in. Okay, I'll fix that problem. I shouldn't fade in and out now. So that's been fixed. Yeah. I've actually seen video of people, and they're cutting the grass, and they literally look like skin and bones. And when you go, say, for a holiday to North Korea, that you have minders following you around, and they get your phone after each place they take you and go through all your photos and delete the ones that they don't want to go back, into the Western world. Yeah. And there was just one guy took a photo of a dirt track, and all you could see there was a fuzzy photo too. It was really grainy, and the sun was obviously shining into the camera. It was just a dirt track, a really rough-looking dirt track, and they deleted it. I know, why would they delete a dirt track? He was complaining too.
Sure.
And he's in What an idiot! He's in North Korea, and he's complaining that they're deleting those photos. I'd shut my mouth, mate. If they started deleting photos, I'd just go back. Yes, sir. No, sir. 3 bags.
They'll delete you. Yeah.
Yes. I wouldn't argue with them, mate. There's no brains, mate. I don't think that they got balls. I just think they've got no brains. People that do that. Anyway. All right, let's get on with this video.
Yeah. I don't want to get too far off.
Documented hundreds of these anomalous artifacts which have yet to be explained.
The basic body of evidence that we've uncovered in this book suggests that human beings of modern anatomical type have been existing for many, many millions of years into the past.
In 1880, California state geologist J.D. Whitney was intrigued by an unexpected discovery made 300 feet under Table Mountain. While digging for gold, miners unearthed a variety of stone tools, such as mortar and pestles and ladles. Incredibly, the rock strata the tools were reportedly found in was dated as early as 55 million years old. Whitney made a thorough report of these finds and came to an unsettling conclusion. Man could be millions of years older than the current evolutionary model suggests. This bizarre evidence seems to have been well documented, yet the general public and many within the scientific community.
You know, it could be that mankind is millions of years older because they found these remains of humankind in these layers that they're not supposed to be in. Or the young earth creationists could be right, and it was all washed in the same year, all in the same pile, you know. So this evidence that they have here is also evidence for young earth creationism, just being interpreted differently, which is really interesting to me. So, what do you think?
Are unaware of these controversial finds. The question is, why haven't we heard of these discoveries before?
Oh, I think we're talking about a massive cover-up. As I said, over the past 150 years, these archaeologists and anthropologists have covered up as much evidence as they've dug up, literally.
Basically, what you find is something we call a knowledge filter. This is a fundamental feature of science. It's also a fundamental feature of human nature. People tend to filter out things that don't fit, that don't make sense in terms of their paradigm or their way of thinking. So in science, you find that evidence that doesn't fit the accepted paradigm tends to be eliminated. It's not taught, it's not discussed, and people who are educated in scientific teachings generally don't even learn about it.
Conventional theory states that modern man originated in southern Africa around 100,000 years ago. From there, he migrated north into Europe and southern Asia, continued through Asia, and crossed the Bering Strait into the New World around 30,000 years ago. He then came down through North America and finally arrived in South America around 15,000 years ago. Yet numerous artifacts have been found across North and South America that are so old they threaten to completely overturn this theory. According to geologist Virginia Steen McIntyre, she was silenced at the height of her career because of her determination to report the facts. In the summer of 1966, a collection of stone tools, including this leaf-shaped spear point, was uncovered at Hueyatlico, Mexico. To find out exactly how old the spear points were, a team of experts from the United States Geological Survey was called in to date them.
When we first
And that's USGS for those that like abbreviations.
There's something like you got to remember there's something like 45,000 arrowheads and stone tools that they thought were stone tools that have been since debunked as stone tools. So I think there's like 45,000. There's a lot more than that discovered, obviously, but there's a huge amount that have been debunked. So I would say, just for the audience watching, that this even this is obviously she's going to say it's in a layer that's really old. I would say that this would be one of the ones that they've debunked. Maybe, possibly, maybe not since then, because he said this was done in 1997 or something, 1996, 97. So, yeah, since then, this may have been one of the ones that they debunked. But you could see that they would debunk something like this, even if they really thought it was a stone tool. They just say it wasn't. It was just a natural sort of thing.
Sure.
Because they have to say that, don't they? But it could be redeposited. That's another thing they say. It just gets redeposited down, in a local flood, sort of loosens it and then washes it down a crack, and then it gets redeposited and dug up 1,000 years later or 2,000 years later, and that's another way they get around it. So, anyway,
Well, I've
I don't know
seen
what
some of
to
these
say.
stone tool claims, and they're basically just rocks, you know, and then they're trying to claim that this is some axe head or some hammer.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, that's right. There's 45,000 of them have been, or something like that. It's thousands anyway, and into the tens of thousands that have been debunked. And I saw that on on Standing for Truth with Dr. Carl Werner. He actually said that. So YouTube can go and fact check that too. So
Yeah.
and I think him being a scientist and a doctor and all that, and he's paid a lot of money. Like I said, he paid $600 for one fossil. On another stream, I said this. He paid $600. The knee joint of Lucy. They didn't want to release the photo. He ended up having to give him $600 to get that photo. And then he said they were saying that he said when I look at this knee joint, you or I look at it, we wouldn't know for certain. We'd think that was just a human knee joint. But then he showed a quote from some guy that was speaking about this. He said it's basically is an ape knee joint. So he got the actual photo of the actual original fossil knee joint, and he's got someone talking about that, and he's saying that it's just an ape knee joint, not a human. So there you go.
Wow, that's amazing. I heard that part. The other thing I heard, which I found interesting, I didn't know if it was right or not, was that he said that the Lucy pelvis was altered to look more human.
Yeah. And he also said those bone clone things are useless. He said, don't look at them. He said, you know how they talk about the foramen magnum in the bottom of Lucy's skull? He said, someone said, what do you think of the foramen magnum in the bottom of Lucy's skull? How they say the foramen magnum was angled down more and stuff like. He said, I've never seen the foramen magnum. He said, you've never seen it either. He said, those representations that you see in bone clones and things like that, he said, they're just absolutely useless. He said, no one's seen it except the people that discovered it and the people that have got the original fossil in the museum, and they will not release the photos of it. So there you go, man. Right there. Kills it. All right. Are you there, C Science? Oh, no. Anyway, we'll keep playing. So that's
yeah, I mean, are you still there? I'm sorry, I had to take care of a cat fight there for a second. Am I coming through?
Yep. You don't get abscesses.
Yeah, I mean, Warner, it was interesting because he said, you can't really view the fossils or whatever. But I mean, there's pictures online of the fossils and stuff.
Yeah.
In glass, like in the glass case. But you're not allowed to handle these things. And even some of the paleoanthropologists that made the discoveries aren't allowed to touch their own discoveries, apparently. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's crazy. That is just insane, isn't it, man? That they're not even allowed to see their own discoveries. Only the people that have got control of them in the museums, and that was really eye-opening to me because I had so many arguments. We even made whole docs and videos on the Lucy's foramen magnum and based on what we see in bone clones, and that she still could be a knuckle walker even with the but then we find out after all this stuff that we've done that they haven't even released the original, so no one really knows except the people that have got the original fossil in the museum. No, they're the only ones.
And like the bone clones, they're a good representation though. So, and we both know that there's actually human remains. There's actually human remains in. Oh, really? There's actually human remains in that conglomeration.
Yeah,
whether
no.
Warner believes it or not. He tried to claim that the pelvis was changed.
He's not saying they're not human
to look more
bones.
human when the pelvis was flared out to look more chimpanzee. But I got to take care of something.
He didn't say that they're not human bones. He didn't say that at all. He anyway, you're getting me mixed up now, man. You should have let me finish and you would have become more clear. But I'm telling you, man, it is not saying that they're human, that they're not human bones. He's just saying that when you see that foramen magnum on Lucy's skull in bone clones, nobody has seen that. Nobody's seen the original. That's just what they released. Nobody has seen a picture of the original. So you know what they're probably, because they won't release the original photo of the original fossil, you know that they don't have the position of the foramen magnum. You know that there's a big gap there, right? And I reckon that's what it is. I'm just speculating here, but I'm speculating that there's just a big gap there, and they don't know where the former magnum is. So and that's what he said. He said that's what he meant by they're useless, because when you look at that Foreman Magnum, nobody's seen that, mate. There's no original photo out there of the Foreman Magnum, mate, of that area, of the original fossil. That's what he said, and he's right. He was not saying that he said that the Lucy thing was a human sacrum. He said that. So yeah. Anyway, but he said don't go on bone clones. You don't know what they look like. Like the original fossils, the most important fossil finds on Earth. They won't release the original photos. I mean, there's a lot of original photos out there of fossils, but the most important ones on Earth that they push the narratives in school science textbooks with. Anyway, sorry, I just had to correct that because I didn't want him going on saying that he didn't say that they weren't human. He's just saying that they're useless in the sense that trying to get an anyway, you won't find it. Go and look for the original photo. You probably have to pay him $1 million or something, 10 million to get that photo. Literally. Yeah, I just wanted to stop you before you went off saying that I don't care. You said I don't care what Carl Werner said, sort of thing, of whether he believes it was human or not. No, he's not saying they're not human. There's not human bones there. He's just saying that those bone clones are a misrepresentation, or he doesn't know because no one's seen the original, so you wouldn't know. Yeah. You there, Sea Science? Oh, you dropped out again, have you? You're having trouble. Okay, well, we'll just get on with the video then, I suppose. Oh, wrong one.
Began to work on the Hueyatlaco site. We thought we had an old site. This is back in '66, and we thought it was perhaps 20,000 years old. And at that time, that was considered a very old age for the site. We did what they call radiometric dates, which gives an actual date range. And we used two different methods to do that. One was using uranium atoms, another one was using little zircon crystals. When we finally got the dates and all the different methods we used to date it, it came out to be 250,000 years old. To tell you the truth, I would have been happy with a 20,000-year-old date. It would have made my career. It was very old for the time, but it wasn't so old that it was that controversial. People can take 20,000-year steps. They can't take steps that are over 200,000 years at one time. And I was rather naive. I thought, okay, we've got something big here, but I'm just going to stick with the date. We've got the information. We got the facts. Let's get the facts out and go on from there. And I didn't realize it was going to ruin my whole career.
According to Dr. McIntyre, because she stuck to the facts, all of her professional opportunities were closed off. She's not worked in her chosen field since. The site was closed and permission for further investigation was denied forever.
It's not necessarily a deliberate conspiracy in the sense of some
All right, I'm back. Did I miss anything? Had to take care of some stuff around the lab, you know, basic maintenance and so on and so forth. Taking care of the aquariums, you know, feeding the dolphins and such. Killer whales.
I could hear the bats. I could hear the cats in the background going at each other. So.
All right.
Anyway, so anyway, I've lost what I was saying. Doesn't matter. It's not important. So we'll just keep going on with this. He's just about to talk about. Anyway, let's go.
All right.
people getting together in a smoke-filled room and saying, we're going to deceive people. It's something.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are, because they will not release the original fossils. They should not be allowed to teach children a narrative as if it's like science, and without the original fossils. By law, they should have to have the photos of the original fossils with their reconstruction. You know what I mean? And they don't do that with the most important fossils. I think that that's deceptive, and that is men getting together in smoke-filled rooms and deciding to withhold information that's pertinent to, like there'd be a lot of people that look at those original fossils and go, "You got nothing there," and they know that. Why do you think they're not releasing the photos? What, they're not releasing the photos because they back them 100%? I don't think so. Anyway, that's just my opinion. But anyway.
Something that happens automatically within the scientific community. So when a given piece of evidence disagrees with the predominant theory, then automatically people won't talk about it, they won't report it, and that means that science fails to progress in the way that one would hope.
Okay.
All right. I missed if he talked about the stone fingers or not in that one. Did he talk about that? No, he didn't speak about the stone fingers in that one, or that fossil footprint that he showed in the beginning. I've got that fossil footprint right here, actually. All right. If you have the article on that, we can check that out.
Yeah. Here it is, right there.
I just want to say about Dr. Warner is that he did a good job. He took a good crack at it, but it seems to me that his opinion was that Lucy is just a bunch of ape remains that have been.
He said that. I'm pretty sure he said that the sacrum was human, or I can't remember, but I think he did, didn't he? I think so.
I don't think so.
I'd have to go back and watch it again, but I think he did. But I'm going to watch that again, and I'll put out a correction video if got that wrong.
I think he's on board with AIG. Like as far as the idea that Lucy was some kind of ape, basically. Yeah. But you and I both know that there's human remains in there, so
yeah.
And that the ilium, like here we got the ilium. I'll show you what I'm talking about real quick. So the ilium of Lucy in the articulated on the left, you see the flare that everyone's been talking about. Well, in humans, it's more vertical. The flare isn't as wide.
I remember what
as
he said now.
As an ape. Yeah. See now the ape is flared like crazy, right?
What he
so
said
really
is
the alteration, the alteration, the Lucy sacrum, the actual pelvis was to make it more ape appearing, if anything. So, and what happened was you saw the video last week or the week before where Paleo-Logos reconstructed the pelvis and cut the ilium apart and put it back together.
Yep.
Well, he found that it was more human when he put it back together. So he got something more of a shape like this, which is what the evolutionists would expect. Okay. If they believe in an animal that has a human bottom. Okay.
Yeah.
So that should have a human looking pelvis, right?
Yeah.
But that's the problem, is because it's a box filled with human, chimp, and at least one baboon remain. So.
Yeah.
But Warner did a great job explaining like all the groups, and I got to watch the whole thing still. I've watched part of it. I watched the question and answer part where he answered about like these 400 individuals. And instead of answering, I would have answered that differently, because he said that when he was asked about 400 individuals of Afarensis, he says, well, I don't know. I can't look at the fossils. They won't give me access to it. But even SFT, I think, was saying something like, well, there's not actually 400 individuals, but rather 400 pieces. You know what I mean?
Oh
But
yeah,
there's not
yeah.
there's
Sorry.
not 400 partial skeletons. They have like 400 pieces of
Yeah.
teeth and finger bones, and
Yeah,
that they claim belong to Afarensis. So.
yeah, and they sort of arrange them in whatever order they think. Anyway.
So this is your Don Patton article here.
Yeah. Anyway, that's this. Let me just say. Hang on. Better
All
if I
right.
go into the app on my phone. Oops. And it takes forever to load. Let me have a look at this. Let me have a look at this doc.
But yeah, you've
Okay,
seen
I'm
the
just
human
looking- I'm just
fingers that
searching
are
something.
stone, right? I mean, those are pretty impressive. They took an X-ray of the stone and they saw that there is actual bone, or where the phalanges would be. So when they scanned it, however they scanned it, they discovered that it was pretty much a human finger.
Yeah.
But I mean, only creationists really talk about it, right? I mean, and like ancient aliens, I guess.
Hang on.
When I was watching that documentary there, Mysterious Origins of Man, all I could think of was this is so much like the material from Ancient Aliens. It even had some of the same characters in it, but
Yep. Now I'm just
so are they at
looking.
Latoli there?
I don't know.
Oh
Hang
no,
on,
that's
I'm just trying.
Dallas.
Okay. Just let me go. Oh, there. Hang on. Back. Okay, here it is. Got it. All right. Wonder what that could be. Well, it couldn't be a human track. They were 100 million years apart from the dinosaurs, according to the evolutionists. If they are together, it would utterly destroy the theory, and you can't redeposit footprints either. And so, this is one that has to be carved, and this is Dawkins' conclusion. We'll come back to that in a moment. I was somewhat intimidated by the objection because it was just almost too good to be true, and so we looked around for some that weren't quite so good, and we found some as well. Anyway, so I'll keep going on. I'll just get past all the other stuff that he talks about here, and I'll get straight to it.
Now, Don Patton, he also found giant footprints, right?
No, someone that spoke to him said he saw them and they removed them out of the park and cut them. Just trying to get to that foot. Hang on, we'll get there in a sec. Oh, here it is. Here it is. All right. So, just let me grab a hold of this. Oops. Oh, damn it. Oh, there it is. Or is that up further? No, it's down here. That's where it begins. Sorry. It's hard to get. There it is. All right. Oops. Okay. So here we go. Here we go. And that's in a, okay, so you got the, hang on. Always gets messed up. There, all right. So, anyway, I've got to get down to that part. I'll just be back in a sec. I've got to get into my phone and just scroll down. Till I get to there. Takes a while.
Scrolling. Keep those doggies scrolling. Here we go.
Here it is. Here it comes. Okay.
I'm still with you, man. I'm just hanging back a little bit.
and that's in a sequence of fifth. Oh, sorry, no, we don't want that. Okay, here we go. And this one, and this one, oh, sorry, this is one of the ones that had to be carved. It was just too good to be true because it looked awfully good. I said, is there some way we can tell if there is, if it is carved or not? Well, when you cross-section it, sometimes, as indicated in question a moment ago, you can see disturbed material underneath the surface, and so the sectioned as oh, sorry, hang on, sorry, and the section part, as you can see here, if you go down again, we get to the objections. Oh, sorry, I forgot, I missed a part. Oh yeah, hang on, where is that? I think I went too far. No, all right. Just let me do a search on this. Okay. Oh, then we get, sorry, then we get to new objections. They say, well, but it's too broad at the front, it's too narrow at the heel, and look at the center, it's raised. Tracks are not supposed to be raised in the middle. Of course, they had no idea what tracks are supposed to look like, and we didn't either. So we went out and did some science. We got some junior high school kids to make some tracks in wet concrete, and we found out that the tracks and the walking tracks and running tracks are pretty easy to distinguish between them. Anyway, so then he goes down. Here you can see the wet concrete there that the kids ran through, and there's a track that's got the elongated toes that they ran through, and the raised part in the middle, and the toes are sort of like this weird shape, right? I've seen that in mud myself. When I run
Sure enough.
when I've been running in mud, I've seen that exact shape like probably thousands of times, and weird shapes like that. You know, that one, the original fossil. But anyway, he goes on with that, and he goes on, and they say, all right, so there it is there. Oh, hang on, we've got to go back up. Hang on, let me see if I can find the.
Yeah, that almost
here it is.
matches
Here it is.
perfectly. You know.
And so we sectioned across the track, and hang on, just let me go down. Let me go down. Okay, we sectioned across the track, which they'd have to say was carved. And again, you see the disturbed material. Hang on, just let me go. Let me click. Oh, hang on, I had to do that, didn't it? Typical for. Hang on. Oh, there's that finger. There it is. Okay, and so we sectioned across the track, which they have to say was carved. And again, you see the disturbed material and following contours, right, across the pad of the cat. All right, so this is the cat. Oh, hang on, did we go past that? Oh, I think we went past all of the. Where's the stuff about him sectioning across the toe? Oh, here it is. Went too far. Right. Great toe. Great toe in there. There it is. So anyway, I've got to go back up. Sorry. I've got to go back up to here. This one that's had to be carved. Here we go. So good. That's more in frame now. All right. And the center, you can see the displaced disturbed material. Is this a carved track? Question mark. No, this is an original impression. Carving would have to cut across rather than corresponding with the disturbed material underneath. So that disturbed material you see underneath there confirms the pad. So then they say,
I see it.
Yeah. So then they said that okay, so the toes had to be carved on. So then so we presented this at a science meeting in Dallas, and it got rather quiet. Then finally one person said, well, this is obviously a real track, but it must be a dinosaur track that somebody carved toes on. And I'm glad he said that, because because we then proceeded to section across the toes, as you can see, right? We proceeded to section across the toes, as you can see here, right? So there's that, and I'll just go up a bit to get that. Actually, I should just keep that toes in picture. And this is a real reach, because sometimes you section a dinosaur track and you see nothing. But we were lucky with the fine grain limestone, because it preserved a lot of detail. Here is the section across the toes, right? So he sectioned across the toes, and you can see that picture above it, where the disturbed material, and I'll go down to the next one, right? So then we got this, and he says basically that's a real reach, and especially here at the great toe, right? So you can see then they section across the toes that they got the same disturbed material underneath the toes. And
Wow.
so they had no comeback on that one, and they literally got it on all the toes, but it's most prominent at the big toe, right? So we can see all the disturbed material right the way across, following the contours of the thing, so we know it wasn't carved. And it's even more from it's most prominent at the big toe, but all the toes have got it. So that proves all of the toes were laid down at the same time. And of course they'll argue against that. They're blue in the face. But
Well, yeah, because they just won't believe it, you know.
And actually you see the structures you see the structures under each of the toes, but they're very dramatic at the big toe. And so we verify even at the toes that this is not a carved track, right? So then we get a new set of objections. They say, well, that it's too broad at the front. Hang on, I'll just get up there. They say that it's too broad at the front, it's too narrow at the heel, and look at the center, it's raised. Tracks are not supposed to be raised in the middle. And of course, we had no idea what tracks were supposed to look like. And then I've already talked about this. There's the track. There's the kid that ran through the mud. So I've literally seen my toes make that exact shape in mud of that fossil. I've seen that exact shape. I've run through hundreds of miles, kilometers of mud, and in my life, you're walking up through the swamps and stuff around Port Macquarie and that with bare feet. Of course, you take your shoes off and hang them around your neck, your boots off, and walk through with bare feet. Probably wouldn't these days. There might be needles up there these days, but back then there wasn't. And and I've seen that. So that's the exact shape. So that's a real killer. So they proved that the toes were laid down at exactly the same time, and this fossil here is something like 100 million years old. And then you've got this cat track here, right? And this cat track is the size of a dinner plate, mind you. This is just a normal, it looks like a cat of today. And we've got cats of today that got feet the size of dinner plates anyway. You got massive.
That's a big cat.
Yeah, but we've got them today. You know, you've got those ligers and things like that. Those ligers have big feet like that. Anyway,
big old paws.
Yeah, we've got this cat track here that's the size of a dinner plate, but it's actually, you can see clearly that it's a cat track, right? It's nothing else. It could be nothing else. It's a cat track anyway. So then they section across the cat track, and guess what? You've got all the disturbed material beneath the cat track.
Sure enough.
Like, so, and the beauty of this is you can't.
And this is all in the same dinosaur layer, Jason.
Yeah, no. These are like in layers that are 100 million years old, or some hundreds of million, or 100 and something million years old, or something like that. Like they're in a massively old layer, and they can't get around it. Yeah, so you've got
cats have just been around forever, then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically.
But mankind has evolved in 3 million years, but cats have been around for 100 million years. Sure.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. You know, if you like eating magic mushies and believe in and mini stuff,
you have to make it make sense. You just have to believe and imagine to make it make sense.
Yeah. Well, okay, we got that. Oh, yeah, this is awesome. Hey, look, I'll just explain this without going reading what he said because I can explain
Sure.
it a lot faster. I already know this. Now you see this footprint, right? This is in a museum. This is in a courthouse in somewhere in Texas. That courthouse right there. It's the Hutchinson County Stinnett or something like that. Anyway, so here we go. Here we go. We got this is in a display case in the
Looks
thing.
same.
Now people will say that this is carved, right? But if you look at this material here, you see how that colored layer where the foot's stepping in is just a really thin layer. You see that? It's just that layer's
Sure.
cracked off, and underneath that layer where that footprint is, there's this. It's really thin, and there's this other colored layer underneath. Now, if that was carved, it would cut through that layer, wouldn't it?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they're legit. I mean, there's
You
so
don't
many
need to read that.
paleoanthropologists that expect to see more and more ancient human remains. And I don't know why they're being hidden like that. Like the Smithsonian just keeps them all in the basement, I guess. Because they
I don't
have a
know.
lot of
No, they're all over the world in different museums in their vaults and things. And once they get a hold of them, these giant museums around the world and the Smithsonian and people like that, they won't let you see the original fossils. I mean, if I was like Elon Musk, and I went in and offered them, 20 million or something, or 50 million, they might release the original fossil. But I don't think so, man, because they're making. You think about all the hundreds of
Sure.
millions of textbooks that's printed in, and there's people printing these hundreds of millions of evolutionary textbooks. You think that's not making a lot of money?
Oh,
You think-
yeah. Plus the non-for-profit organizations like the Leakey
Well,
Foundation.
really, there's billions. There's billions of students, and there's billions
Lot
of
of money.
textbooks in there. Billions of textbooks. So you've got billions of textbooks being printed, so they're making a lot of money out of it. So they've got a vested interest in pushing their evolutionary narratives. If something blows their evolutionary narrative, all the money they're making from printing billions of textbooks around the world would be in jeopardy. Just the textbooks alone. We're not talking about all the other, lurks and perks. Anyway.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
lectures
no.
that they have, paid lectures. Like
I'd
Johansson,
like
he
to
goes
have-
around the globe,
Yeah,
gives lectures.
that's a lot of money. He'd get paid tens of thousands of dollars or thousands of dollars per lecture, or tens
Yeah.
of thousands in some cases.
They're like rock stars
Yeah.
for the intellectual community, right?
So, and they talk
It's
about,
interesting.
yeah, yeah, I know. And they talk about creationists. Our creationists are only in it for the money. That's a load of rubbish.
Sure.
I mean, okay, I'd like a quarter of a cent. I'd just like just a quarter of a cent from all those billions of textbooks, every textbook printed, or even 1/100th of a percent. 1/100th
Sure.
of a percent. Give me 1/100th of a percent of every textbook that's ever been evolution textbook that's ever been printed, and I'll be an extremely wealthy man. 1/100th of a percent. 1/100th of 1%.
Hey, I actually
a lot of
located
money.
the video that talks about Don Patton. I think it has Don Patton in it, actually.
Yeah.
And I put that in the private chat. So after your articles, after you're through these prints, we'll, if you don't mind, we'll take a look at that too.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Oh, I've already said where we go. Is that Forbes? Is that the Forbes article you want to look at? Oh, wait a minute. Just quickly, I wanted to show you something. You were talking about that fingerprint before, that finger. Yeah, this is interesting.
All right.
Oh, there it is. There it is. All right. So,
Yes.
Let me get
That's the
this.
one.
Oops.
That's the finger.
Oh, dang it. Oh, hang on. There it is. Let me get it up into.
And they actually scanned this finger.
There. Oh, no. Actually, it doesn't matter. I can just read the text above. You can see it there. That's his daughter's finger, by the way. And anyway, so I'll just scroll down. till I get to that finger on my phone. Here it is. Here it is. Hang on, let me see if I can get back up to the. Oh yeah, there it is. This amazing fossil. Yeah, okay. Okay, this amazing fossil. Okay, that's my daughter's finger underneath. We recognise that looks like what that looks like, but there are a lot of rocks that just happen to look like things accidentally, and so we wanted to see if there's an interior structure. Sometimes you find that in a fossil, and sometimes you don't. Right, and then he goes on to say, so we sectioned here. Hang on, let me go down to the thing. Oh, okay. And so we sectioned here at an angle and more information to see. So there's more information to see if there's any interior structure there. And sure enough, and it goes on to say, right at the intersection, you can see there, right at the intersection where it's supposed to be, we see the bone material in the center of this finger. So they literally got the bone material. And this guy here, scans it with all sorts of, medical scanning devices, like radioactive scanning devices and all sorts of things. And he literally does a 2-hour presentation on this finger, this guy. And in this 2-hour presentation, he literally traces the tendons that run down through this finger, and across the bone and stuff like that, and in the bones. And so it's a 2-hour long lecture just on this finger. And so it's a human finger, and it was found in, I think it was found right at the intersection of the center of this fossil finger. Now, where was it found? The last time, the last time I heard him lecture on this, it was about, was an hour and a half lecture, an hour and a half, not 2 hours. And don't want to hear everyone, anyway, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to hear everything. But he basically traced, like I said, that's pretty amazing. And this thing was found in like 100 million year old rock. I mean, they're going to say that it was washed, to redeposited, but you can't redeposit footprints. And you can't redeposit things
Sure,
like that.
and plus it's a rock finger, So that's unheard of.
Yeah. You can't erode this footprint
Lucy,
away.
she's not even rock.
Yeah.
So
you can't erode a footprint away and redeposit it, and that's the best evidence that we've got. That is really hard to debunk. That sort of, especially when you got the cat footprint here with the human footprints in 100 million year old layers, sort of thing. It's
they can't use their redeposit logic on footprints.
Yeah, that is pretty much
great
nothing.
photos.
Yeah, and it's okay. So we'll look at this. We'll go to this other thing, this other article. Screen. And here it is. Yep, that's it. Orbs. Now, can you see that? Yep. All right, good.
Oh, sure.
All right. Scientists have cracked the mystery of how fossil concretions form. All right. So, let me.
You want me to read this one?
Yeah. Yes.
Concretions are fascinating to geologists and rock hounds alike. All over the world, well-preserved fossils and crystals are frequently been found inside roughly spherical rocks. The Mason Creek fossil beds in Illinois are famous for the concretions found there, which display well-preserved fossil plants is split apart. The Parana Basin in South America is concretions containing fossil fish preserved in 3 dimensions, providing unique snapshots of the past. Some of these fossils even show larger fish swallowing other smaller ones. So, and then if you scroll down, you'll see the photo that we showed earlier, which I can show blown up. Here we go. All right.
There it is.
So this is the predatory fish where he's eating a fish. And it's a pretty impressive fossil find. Now that one wasn't round, you know. So
yeah.
But if you scroll down a little bit further, it gives a quote from this one scientist. Concretions, despite being common in sedimentary rocks, are still a sort of geological mystery. Do dead animals or plants play a role in the formation of concretions, or do concretions simply preserve fossils better than the surrounding rocks? How long do they take to grow? Some documented concretions are more than 9 feet in diameter. That's a big rock. If they can become so large, what exactly controls their growth, and why do they suddenly stop growing? As the sharp contact between concretion and surrounding rocks suggests.
Well, I've got another thing to add to that, and
Sure.
with the with you know when you buy rock salt, right? They carve the rock salt out, and they say one of their things for that was that the rock salt lasts for millions of, like it builds up over hundreds of thousands of years or millions of years. These rock salt plumes. Well, we know that these rock salt plumes were injected in as molten salt, right? And the reason how we know this is when you go through rock salt, if it build up slowly over a long period of time, like slowly build up, you find lots of bits of grit and seashells but I mean everywhere. You wouldn't even be able to eat it. There'd be so much sand and grit. You'd have to sort of you'd have to put it in and dissolve it and then reform it to get all the sand out of it. So the fact that we go through these things and there's a little bit of rock and stuff in it, but there's hardly any really, not like it should be. If it built up slowly over a long period of time, those salt plumes, then they would have just so much sand and grit and garbage in them, and yet they just cut big blocks out, break it up, and then just sell it like that. And you find a little bit of grit here and there.
Yeah, because it's like pure crystal salt.
Yeah. So if it built up slowly over long periods of time, it'd be full of sand and grit and fossils and bones. I mean, I'm sure it's got all that. It's got, in some places, it's got that stuff in it on the outer layers, but on the inner layer of these salt plumes, and they've just been injected up from magma salt from inside the earth, and you can see that.
Wow,
clear as that. What's his name?
Wow.
That guy, Steph. I can't remember his second name now. I can look it up. Salt plumes. But anyway, so no, I don't have to. That basically shows you that these things forming here had to have probably formed fast as well. So salt plumes, if they're pretty much pure all the way through, and if they're pure without many, much, sort of foreign material in it, then they had to probably form quickly, I would say, not slowly.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. And with these concretions, like it's always been a mystery, like this article says, how concretions form, and they've been saying that it takes tens to hundreds of thousands of years. And with the way that the animals are preserved, now they're saying that it happens very quickly. So
yeah.
Under a year.
Yeah. Well, the salt plumes would happen in very, very, very quickly because they just get salt magma injected up into caverns and things, massive cave systems and that, and then it would set, and that's where you get those massive salt plumes in the sides of mountains and stuff like that. You can imagine there would have been times when those mountains were pushed up. There would have been all sorts of cave systems and all through there, and the salt plumes got pushed up into them. But we believe the cave systems and all that formed really quickly, and they believe it formed over millions of years.
Yeah, so that's good evidence for young Earth right there.
Right there.
Or at least, at least a flood, either a catastrophic event too, because you have all that volcanic activity going on if the flood model is as they say.
Yeah. Research of Nagoya University has analysed dozens of concretions in the following sites across Japan, England,
Oops.
and New
Hang on.
Zealand studying the
Let me get
chemical
that.
composition in a transect from the outer layers of concretion towards the surrounding rocks. The researchers were able to crack some of the open questions. The chemical composition shows also that indeed the fossils play a role in the origin of the concretions. The element. Well, look, okay, they're talking about these concretions, but you've also got those waterfalls in, I think, in Japan. I'm not sure where they are, but where you can hang a teddy bear up on a piece of rope and go back in a couple of weeks or a month, and your teddy bear will be completely fossilized. There's that much minerals in the water. So you get a soft,
Wow.
cuddly teddy bear, hang it in this dam, and go back a month later, and your teddy bear's like just solid rock.
Huh. From all just mineralized because of the water. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's the water flowing
That's
over
probably
the
what
dam, and
happened
that,
with Littlefoot, you know? Like
yeah,
you have it in that mineralized water cave.
yep.
Could have
Would have been a
happened
lot of
50
minerals
years
around.
before they found it.
Yeah, it could have. Yeah, yes, it could have. It could have.
You know.
It could have just been a hole. Like they always say that it's an intrusional burial. Well, I say, well, it could be an intrusional burial, and it could have. There could have been a local flood there, and this could be the case, sort of thing. And it just got buried 50 years ago, and they wouldn't bloody well know, and they wouldn't, and they'd say, you know, all this. Oh, we can do, you know, radiocarbon dating testing and all this sort of stuff. Man, they don't tell you that they
Sure.
do 20 different. They do 20 different tests, and they get heaps of ones that don't match up with their narrative, and they just discard all the, you know, like 19, 18 or 19 of the tests, and keep one or two of them, and then push their narrative. And that's something they don't tell people. Anyway,
Yeah, it's
and
wild.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like
so many.
Littlefoot, they're off by 1,000,000 years. They don't know. They say it
Yeah,
could be 2 million or 3 million years old. They can't test the rock in the cave, really.
no,
Because it's flowstone. So it's just their best guess, I think. Actually good.
yeah,
So,
yeah, it is.
but yeah, here you have these researchers discovering exactly
Yeah,
how these concretions are made.
yep,
More surprising were the results of the growth rates. Concretions were thought to take hundreds of thousands to millions of years to form. Millions of years. However, they instead apparently grow at a very fast rate over just several months to several years. This new observation could also explain why the fossils found inside the concretions are so well preserved. Well, that's what we've been saying all along.
oh yeah,
So the way they
as an
form,
animal,
you know, it's
yeah,
actually the seeping out of calcium in these minerals from the living forms and from these trees that form the matrix that they're in, I guess. So after they get buried under these tons of pressure, you know, that's when the mineral starts seeping out from the living forms, and the living forms are the reason that these rocks are formed. And then we can just go out and find the rocks and crack them open and find fossils in them. So it's pretty amazing. Let me turn this air conditioner back on. But yeah, so this article confirms what we've been saying all along. Is that fossils did not take hundreds of thousands of years, but instead form very quickly. So, do you want to watch that video I posted? It's got, I believe, Don Patton himself speaking. Did I lose you? Boy, I'll tell you, it's certainly summer here in Western New York. I don't know how hot it was today, but it was getting in the mid 80s. I know that. I had to turn the air conditioner back on. Feeling a lot better now, though. I was going cross-eyed reading that article, man. About to pass out. That's how I get every time. Well, never mind.
I'll play the video. Play the video. All right.
Dinosaurs left their tracks on this riverbank 100 million years ago. Did humans walk here at the same time? Next, a man who claims these prints are proof that humans lived with the dinosaurs. Ever since dinosaurs were first discovered in the 18th century, they've fascinated people of all ages. The Tyrannosaurus rex stood over 30 feet in height. He's considered the most ferocious predator ever to walk the earth. A brontosaurus grew to the length of 3 city buses. He weighed more than 90 tons. The reign of the dinosaur ended, according to one theory, when a giant meteor crashed into the earth with the force of thousands of hydrogen bombs. A cloud of dust was raised, which blocked the sun for years. This marked the end of the dinosaurs. According to conventional scientific theory, no human beings were alive then to witness these events. Or were they?
Hang on, I'm just going to come back to this. We're at 1 minute and 2 seconds. I've just got to drop that down. And we're at 1 minute 2 seconds. Just let me share this out. Let me share out. Hang on. YouTube. Let's go here. Oh, wrong one. All right. History. And that should get me back to the 1 minute and 2 seconds. Yes. Good.
Over 100.
I've been spoiled with this air conditioner lately.
Biloxi River in Texas.
Oh yeah, it is nice. You know another way to do it. You get a nice heavy cotton t-shirt, a real heavy cotton t-shirt. If it's like really hot weather, I only do this in really hot weather, or you'll get sick. And you get a really heavy cotton t-shirt, and you soak it with water, wring it out, and then sit in front of a powerful fan. And it feels like you sit in a cold day, a nice cool day.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. That's how I do it. Like I just get a fan and put it on wherever I'm working, and just get a t-shirt and wring all the water out of it.
I'll tell you what, if it gets any hotter, that's what I'm going to be doing over here.
Yeah, I know, it's a nightmare. And then with the wet t-shirt on, if you get up to go do something away from the fan, it lasts for a long time, because you've got the air blowing around you as you walk, so it keeps it cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that, and I go into town and I wet my t-shirt so it's like wet through all evenly, and it goes the same color, and then I just wear it hanging over in town, and I'm walking around cool as a cucumber, and everyone's walking around going, "Oh man, it's hot," and I'm going, "No, it's nice and cool for me. It feels nice." So, that's on when it's summer. It's winter now. But, yeah. All right, let's play this.
Texas was a muddy plain. It was here that countless dinosaurs left their footprints to be fossilized and preserved forever. But the tracks of another creature have also been preserved in these banks, possibly the tracks of man. Archaeologist Carl Bau has led the investigation of these controversial prints for over 12 years.
My reaction was one of shock. I had heard of human footprints being found in this locale on the Biloxi near Glen Rose, Texas, but I was rather skeptical. And here, after removing actual rock layers, the team and I excavated a series of dinosaur footprints. And 18.5 inches from one of those dinosaur footprints, we excavated a 16-inch human footprint. We excavated 12 footprints in a series. And when you find a trail with left, right pace and stride, the right distance apart, then you have to interpret this as belonging to humankind.
It's been claimed that the Biloxi River footprints are a hoax carved into the limestone bedrock as a tourist attraction?
Well, we found trails leading under limestone ledges. And actually,
This guy had a one of those mummified skeletons. You know those burial mounds where they dug up those red-haired giants
It's red-haired
in
mummies.
America. You know the red-haired giants that they found in those burial mounds in America, in the USA, right? He actually had a mummified sort of fossil of one of those red-haired women, or a part of it, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. And guess what he did with it?
What's
This guy here, have a guess what? He sold it to the Smithsonian. From what I heard.
of course.
I don't know if that's true or not. You know, you hear things, you don't know if it's 100% true, but I think that's what I was told anyway. Obviously got offered a lot of money.
Yeah, the Smithsonian
So
is so sketchy.
Yeah, but you know that's got a problem. That'll have a problem. That could debunk one of their narratives. So they just went and bought it and then buried it. Yeah, that's the sort of thing they do. Buy up things with their massive amount of dollars. And then bury the information. You there? No. The internet. Alright, we'll just play the video. Oh, actually, I should wait till you get back. You there? See signs? Okay, I'll play the video.
we remove the limestone ledges, one slab of rock at a time. And we found that both the dinosaur footprints and the trail of human footprints continued under the rock ledges.
That'd have to be like 50, 100 ton of rock. So by the time they remove all those layers with those backhoes and that all that massive overburden, that was a lot of rock, a lot of weight. That part they just threw down there. Let me have a look. See if I can find it where it is. Oops. Hang on. Go back a bit.
Footprints continued under the rock ledges. This
is a tourist attraction.
Yeah, that's an amazing
Well, we
shot.
found
with the
trails
footprints
leading under limestone ledges.
next to the dinosaur
went back.
footprints.
I just went back a bit so we could get that rock, that ledge being thrown down. I just want to show people that ledge and tell them how much I think it weighs. Just that ledge, that one ledge.
And actually remove
right there. See how they've got multiple people, heaps of people pushing on it. They've got braces underneath the back of it. That one part there would weigh probably 1 ton, or half a ton to a ton, 500 kilos to a ton. That's 2,200 pounds, or 1,100 pounds, I reckon. Because I work with a lot of, in my life, I've put pools in the ground and stuff like that, and I've worked with a lot of sand, and we got 1 ton, 2 ton, 3 ton, and I do that every day for months and months and months. So I got to know how much a ton is in sand, and that's a rock, and that's really heavy rock. So I'd say that'd be about half a ton that they're pushing over there, at least, minimum.
the limestone ledges.
Yeah, that's a big piece of
One-
limestone there. That's for sure.
Yep.
I'm going to
Yeah.
take a break. I'm going to take a 5-minute break. I'll be right back, man.
Okay, all right, I'll just play
Right
this.
back.
I'll play this.
Slab of rock at a time. And we found that both the dinosaur footprints and the trail of human footprints continued under the rock ledges. This evidence is real.
Today, many of the so-called human prints have fallen victim to erosion and the hands of vandals. But Carl Bau is in possession of one of the most compelling prints ever found. What you were about to see is the most controversial artifact in his collection.
I first saw the Burdick print on my initial visit to Glen Rose in 1984. My impression at that time was that it was too perfect. but it's clearly a human footprint demonstrating the heel section, the arch.
Oh, there's the whole fossil. That's awesome. That's really good. You there, Sea Science? Having trouble. The net. Very, very annoying. Very annoying. Anyway.
The base of the metatarsals, the first or great toe, second, third, fourth, and fifth toe.
After our examination of this print, we find that it definitely is in the Cretaceous.
I forgot you were having a break. I forgot. All right. Anyway, actually, I'm going to take this time to drop this back down off the screen because I can get back to it in. Let me get rid of this. Get rid of that and go back to it again. Get rid of that. And here we go. Come on. Here we go. History. Okay. All right. Sorry. It just, my screen goes into split screen mode. It's really annoying and I have to dump it and start again, sort of thing. So sorry about that, but it just gets too hard flipping between split screens. So that's why I have to do that. Here we go. I'll just go back a little bit. Back to you.
After our examination of this print,
Great toe, second, third, fourth, and fifth toe.
After our examination of this print, we find that it definitely is in the Cretaceous limestone, in the same formation with the dinosaur footprints. Here we're looking at a cross section, and we can see very obvious following contours under the great toe, and actually structures under each one. Where we see the calcite inclusion, the force was concentrated and produced these load-bearing structures, which are exactly what geologists look for. We have eliminated the idea that it's carved. It definitely is original impression in the sediment.
This is said to be the fossilized finger of a human being. It too was reportedly found in the same strata as the dinosaur tracks, dating to over 100 million years old.
It had what appeared to be a nail, what appeared to be a cuticle, a taper, a humanoid shape. After I saw the CAT scan, there was no longer any room in my mind for doubt. This scan shows the shape of the finger, it shows tissue beneath the skin of the finger, it shows the bone, it shows the joints, it shows a ligament. That tells me this is a human finger.
The limestone layer that preserved these artifacts is reportedly dated at around 135 million years old. Yet, as we saw earlier, objects have been found in rock strata much older than this. In Klerksdorp, South Africa, hundreds of metallic spheres were found by miners in Precambrian strata, said to be a fantastic 2.8 billion years old. The controversy centers around the fine grooves encircling some of the spheres. Lab technicians were at a loss to explain how they could have been formed by any known natural process. According to the curator of the Klerksdorp Museum, Rolf Mars, these spheres are a complete mystery. They look man-made, yet at the time in Earth's history when they came to rest.
Oh, these spheres, I've seen counter-arguments to these spheres, and they're actually pretty good, the counter-arguments for the spheres.
Oh, yeah.
So, there are some good counter-arguments for these things. You do see these sort of things form naturally. They say that they're not natural,
Right.
but I've seen some pretty good arguments against this. So they can't get it right all the time. But anyway, I'm going to give you what they say. Maybe it isn't. They know something we don't, but let's watch and see.
On the rock, no intelligent life existed. They're like nothing I've ever seen before. Author-researcher David Hatcher Childress has written numerous articles on the coexistence of humans and dinosaurs.
I think that one of the solutions to the paradox of dinosaurs and people together.
Here's
and
the guy from Ancient
vast
Aliens.
discrepancy in time.
Huh? What was that? See? You there?
Yeah, this is the guy from Ancient Aliens here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever watched that.
Oh, no, I've never watched it. What's it about, Ancient Alien? This stupid rubbish.
What's it about?
Yeah.
Like the show?
Yeah.
Ancient Aliens.
Yeah,
Well, they
Ancient
like
Aliens.
they try to suggest. They basically claim everything that's old was, you know, made by aliens or the aid of helped by aliens, and everything unknown. They basically point to aliens, space aliens. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's they go to some interesting places, but they've got, I don't know how much evidence they got, but there's some pretty interesting stuff that they bring up, you know, but they blame everything on aliens. They're like, oh, aliens built the pyramids, you know, so on and so forth. There's like 12 seasons of this stuff, and it was done by the History Channel. So, and he's in that, and then there's some guy that has crazy hair.
Yeah.
And he's in a ton of memes all over the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how else to describe that show. They'll point to like, what's that circle on the island there? Stonehenge.
I don't know.
Like they'll say Stonehenge, and they'll be like, "Oh, aliens built Stonehenge," you know?
Oh yeah.
Everything's aliens did it. So it's just, I don't know. It's kind of far out.
I honestly believe that we're going downhill. I mean, I can't find it right now. I probably could if I looked, but I'd take too much time. I've found like stuff like I think what is it called? IQ tests go back like 250 years, and what I saw was that on average, if you just pulled the average dumbass off the street, uneducated moron off the street, and IQ tested them like the average uneducated moron today and the average uneducated moron back then, and you IQ tested them, you'd find that the average person back then was on average 14 IQ points higher than the people of today. And that would make sense, right? Because they didn't have computers and air conditioners and cars and trucks and supermarkets, and you know what I mean? They really had to live tough, and they had to grow food and store food and know, you know, like how to, like to survive back then, you would have needed a lot more brains. And so, yeah, they've just basically found that we're getting dumber. We're not getting smarter. And we think because we've got these computers doing everything for us that we're getting smarter. We're not. We're going backwards compared to what people were. People were much smarter. And I believe that, I personally believe, I mean, Sea Science believes this, but I believe people were just generally genetically more superior and stronger in the past, and that we're going downhill. So we're just on a downward spiral until the end of creation, in my opinion. We'll keep going that way. We'll never change. Never go uphill. Nothing will evolve. They'll just say with human species and lineage and that, now we've removed natural selection with our medical technology. So that's messed with human evolution. So that's one comeback they'd have. If 1,000 years from now, if people haven't changed at all and it's still 100% the same, or 2,000 or 10,000 years from now, they'll just say that. So,
the whole time.
Unless you got something to say, Sea Science. No. Okay.
Timeline of millions of years versus only thousands of years can be explained in a cataclysmically geologic.
We can't hear you if you're talking, by the way. I don't know, you got your mic off. All right.
view of the past, where rather than geological events taking place over millions of years, they take place more quickly. And what is a million years on a geological time scale is in fact only, say, 1,000 years. And therefore, it's going to bring all this dating much closer to us and make it possible so that in a scientific way, man and dinosaurs can have existed together in the past. And in fact, dinosaurs can still be alive today in small numbers in remote areas of the world. For instance, in 1977, a Japanese fishing boat off New Zealand brought up out of the water the carcass of what appeared to be a plesiosaur, an animal that should have been extinct for millions of years.
Although the authenticity of this photograph has never been disproved, skeptics have claimed it's merely the body of a decomposing shark.
All right. I suppose. Let's have a look here. Ha! 1 ton rubber ball. So everyone want to see that.
Oh yeah.
They got 22 million subs, these guys. How ridiculous. Bloody idiots. There you go. Now. Oh, they're going to chop a car in half with a 2-ton axe. So, okay. Oh, now, rid of that.
Man, sorry I'm spacing out so much. It's so hot. I'm like, I feel like I want to like puke and pass out. I don't know. I'm drinking ice water now, so I should be good.
You talk for a while. I'm going to go get my dog out. He's been patient, so I'm going to get him out. All right, I'll be back in 5 minutes or so. All right.
All right. Well, I think I'm just gonna close it up, man. I mean, I'm about shot out. So.
Yeah, it's too hot, I suppose, where you are. Pain in the neck.
I don't know. Like I just ran to the bathroom because I thought I was gonna lose my cookies, and I'm back. So I don't know if I got a bug or what, but I'm not feeling good. So.
Well. But there's one thing I know: if you take, if you're not allergic to shellfish, and you take like 10 or 15 Hawaiian astaxanthin capsules, it'll suck the poison away from that the bacteria are creating, and make you feel a lot better really quickly. And there's no limit to how many of them you can take. By the way, they recommend just 1 a day. But they say in citations, there's no limit to how much you can take, but we recommend only 12 milligrams a day. But when you're sick, you can pump a lot into yourself, and it'll make you feel better real quick. Might give you a bit of the runs for a couple of times. Go to the toilet, it'll go through you real quick, but it'll kill all the poison from the bacteria and make you feel better really quickly, like within 20 minutes, sort of thing. All right.
Sure. I mean, it could be worth it, or even try a multivitamin or something. I don't know.
But we'll end it. All right. Good night. Goodbye. God bless everyone.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure talking to you, man, and have a good time with your dogs.
All right. We will. I will. All right. I'll just end it now. Goodbye. God bless, and see you later, everyone. All right.
Yep. Stay strong. God bless.